Was ich meine?
Genau, wenn du dann noch wieder extra Meter ja, dann hätte es alles Zeit. Ja, er will super. Ja. gar nicht.
Wie lokalisiert ihr auch noch?
Unbedingt das im ersten Rennen bald machen.
Yeah, we saw it and we really quickly left there because we wanted to pick someone up there.
Ihr wollt einfach mal schnell
telefoon vastleggen spelen.
even if the car manages to hit another cone with a first cone being hit, all of those cones out of position count as a time penalty towards the final time. Those penalties are different per event, so we'd have to look up for the driverless autocross how much that exactly is. At least I was right about which car was going to be up next. Deggendorf.
Yes, it is indeed Fast Forest from Deggendorf. And penalties-wise, I believe that for all of the events except for the skid pad, hitting a cone is a 2-second time penalty. And at the skid pad, it is a 0.2.
Which basically means that a clean run is much preferred over a much faster but more aggressive run.
And just to give an update on the time that the Napoli team has set, it was a 50.993 versus the 35.2 set by the Milano team. And now we'll see what Deggendorf is able to achieve. Also, a very, very black car. Jonas, you made an observation earlier that a lot of teams are opting to have more and more black on them. Why do you think that might be? Spending less money on paint?
Paint, stickers, whatever it is the teams use to get a splash of color on the cars. On one hand, I can understand if it's done for weight reasons. On the other hand, the cars look a lot more handsome with bright colors everywhere. So it's a good start from Deggendorf. They do clip 3 cones in the first turn.
I think 2 cones it was. Looking pretty clean through the small slalom section.
Sharp hairpin.
Hitting, I think, 2 more cones, at least, at the back corner, and another one a little further down. But still doing pretty well overall, slowing down nicely for the second to last corner, coming around now, across the line, stopping a little further down than the Italian teams. But the blue light comes on. Well done, Deggendorf. And that is a 40.554. And just to give a small update on the queue, I see car number 31 from Too Fast Munich lining up, doing some final checks. So hoping to see a driverless autocross run from them in the next few minutes. And for those of you interested in the historic combustion event, the first dynamic discipline of that will be starting in just 3 minutes by the grandstand between that and the marquee above pits, the historic acceleration. And as the historic acceleration event begins over on the main straight, we have our next driverless autocross team reaching the starting line, and it is car number 50 from the University of Lisbon. Jonas, do you see anything outside of the usual on this car? Anything that really catches your eye?
If you want me to talk about the underglow for a third time in a row, then, well, you got me there. This car has a, blue-purple underglow below the rear. Could be for ground speed estimation, you never know, but could also just be a cool factor. Other things that stand out to me, well, it's a driverless car that seems to be running quite all right, at least in the skid pad. It looked good to me. I have no idea how they did hit the driverless acceleration. I wasn't there. Other than that, it looks like a Formula Student car all right. This time around, we have a white-gloved official watching over the time that it takes the team to get set up.
And it appears the Lisbon team might not be attempting their run just yet. After some words with the officials, they have decided to push the car back, I assume, towards the preparation area. But we do already have the next car lined up in the queue. It is not yet the too fast car from Munich, that is still in the preparation area. This is
Dresden. You can see the logo under the nose.
Ah, yes.
The white and orange is also pretty telling.
Yes, Elpfler race.
Right behind them, we're also seeing car number 120, Karlsruhe KIT, pushing into the dynamic area.
So it seems that the action is picking up.
Yeah, we have just over 1.5 hours left to go in this event here. In parallel, we're also keeping an eye on the historic acceleration. The last hurrah of the combustion cars is partaking right now. Cars that aren't competing with this year's cars, but are competing amongst themselves for the honor of being at the last combustion event of FSG.
Yes, I believe the oldest car participating in the historic event is actually from 2003. So 20 years old. I don't think any of the Formula Student cars were ever built with the intention of being alive for that long. So even the fact that they're here and they're participating is already a fantastic achievement. And also a great chance for people to see the evolution of Formula Student cars and the evolution of the rule set. See how much things have changed. Dresden, meanwhile, has pulled up to the starting line. Driver is getting out of the car. Everything is being set up. Tractor system engaged.
No solid orange yet, though. That should be visible on the side and rear of the car.
Hopefully it'll come on very soon. The ASR pushing the reset button on the car, discharging it, checking something under the front hatch. Dresden, unfortunately, also having to step away for the moment. So I believe now Karlsruhe will get to attempt their first run. And as Karlsruhe approaches the starting position, we see that Lisbon is back in the queue. So hopefully they figured out whatever issue they were facing before and will now be ready to run.
kit is ready. Solid orange this time. That's the light that we were missing from Dresden.
Go signal is given. And there it goes.
Flamboyant start, collecting at least 2 blue cones on the left side from the starting straight.
But continuing nice and smooth through the rest of it.
I think there was 1 more cone victim in the first turn.
Yes, and 1 more, 2 more, 3, 4. Over on the back end. Going pretty well around the sharp right-hander. Oh, coming off the track.
Getting very close to the wall there. The viewers sprinting away. But they got it stopped just in time. I don't think there was any contact or any harm done.
No, and it almost seemed like the car corrected itself because you can see the wheels are turned hard to the right now. So as the marshals reset all of the cones and the Karlsruhe team members retrieve their car, we now have Lisbon coming back to the starting line. And Too Fast is already in the queue right behind them. And I believe that would be the Lisbon team members cheering their team on from the stands. While Lisbon is preparing, Jonas, I see you have the timing open. Maybe you could give us a little bit of an update of what kind of times we're seeing in the historic acceleration event.
It's a little bit difficult to see because the historic cars are mixed in with the acceleration times of the other teams. Give me 1 second.
Some final checks are being made on the Lisboa car. The official seems satisfied. Tractor system engaged. Orange lights are on. So we should be about to see a first attempt by the team from Lisbon.
Here we go. She finally set off.
aggressive over the line, clean through the first right-hander. Staying nicely in the middle of the track, smooth and steady. Taking a very wide line through the slaloms, wider than we've seen before, but still very clean, not touching any cones. Slowing down a little bit on the sharp right-hander at the back there, hitting a blue cone on the way out, but still very clean throughout the rest. Gently finding its way through the final corners, still very clean. Almost hitting a cone in the last corner, but avoiding it across the line. And waiting to see that magic blue light. And there it is.
45.54 was the time on that, plus one cone.
So I believe that places them as second fastest for the day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well done, Lisbon.
Please leave the grandstand standing for the autocross and the endurance in the next few days. But that's great to see the atmosphere you guys bring to this competition.
Yeah, fantastic team spirit. Maybe there should be a separate category. You can get a couple of points for the best team cheers and the best team spirit. And now we see car number 31, Too Fast Munich, making its way over to the starting line. They were in the preparation area for quite a bit, but seems that anything that they wanted to work on they have now worked out and are ready to go, ready to race.
Zero penning, quase. Eu já desci antes de trocar do 80. Então bom penning que faço.
The TFS car was sitting there for almost a little bit too long, but now seems to be ready to go. Go signal is given. And off they go, very quickly off the start line. Very clean through the first corner. Hanging very close to the outside of the track, clean through the slalom.
That looks very pointy even in driverless mode. Tight turn, the cone does not survive.
No, I think the same one hit by Milan and Napoli. Another blue cone hit about halfway through, but very clean through the last couple of corners and accelerating across the line.
Another cone in the finishing section and just touching the last blue one. I don't think that one will count as a penalty.
No, it seems to have stayed within the box, waiting for that magic blue light.
taking her time.
Could the blue cone right in front of the wing be throwing it off?
I think what might be throwing it off is that it's ended up somewhat outside of the track boundaries.
Also possible.
I'm not sure if there is a time limit for the car recognizing that it has finished the run, but the only other alternative is for the officials to push the emergency stop button.
It is, but they're waiting patiently.
Exactly, that would invalidate the run, in fact.
We're seeing now a little bit of a historic comparison. You can see one of the earlier too fast combustion cars on the test track and the most recent electric car from Too Fast on the driverless track. Very, very distant cousins, would you call them?
Siblings to some effect, yeah.
The officials in the ASR are still waiting patiently to see whether the car will decide to complete its mission. But it certainly doesn't want to keep going, so it must know that it's somewhere around the right spot. I see some more cars coming up in the queue now. So maybe the officials will ask Too Fast to hurry along.
I see the flashing blue means an aborted run. So while that was a very quick time, unfortunately does not count. This will be probably switched over into a DNF. I see in the queue Tallinn for the first run and Napoli returning for their second run of the day.
Tallinn now rolling up to the start line, and they've been doing pretty well so far at FSG 2023, right, Jonas?
At least they left a pretty good impression with me. I would have to double check the times for the hard numbers. I do remember seeing them around about this time yesterday at the driverless skid pad. That was a pretty clean performance.
Is that a 3.5 in the driver yes acceleration? A 4.69 in the skid pad this morning. They actually, I remember, set the fastest left-hand loop of all the teams but the right-hand one was not as fast, so on average 4.69, but I think that was the second fastest time of the day.
Solid orange. Everybody retreating behind the barrier. And we're off. More careful approach than what we saw from Munich earlier.
I saw some jittery steering input on the starting straight.
And I see some cones being collected. I think that's an off course in the car heading in the wrong direction.
Indeed.
That did not look recoverable. So this run was rightfully aborted.
Yes, and now we'll see Napoli making their way back to the track for their second attempt. And Napoli is now rolling up to the start line, and behind them, Écurie X is in the queue for their first attempt.
Looks like Napoli is having some trouble getting the engine started and the gearbox into the right position. Every time the engine is cranked over, the flashing blue light immediately returns. Now she's running at least. Solid orange. That's what we like to see. They're ready for their run.
the go signal is given. Clutch engaged and off the car goes. Little tentative at the start line, but very clean. Carefully finding its way through the track, staying neatly between the lines, not touching any cones. Once again, clipping that blue cone in the far corner, taking it along for a little bit. Last couple of corners, very neat, very clean through there on the final straight. And across the line. And the blue light comes on immediately. Another successful run for Napoli. Well done, guys.
2 runs of 46.98. With that one cone on top, that is at least the one cone that we saw anyway. That will be slightly slower in the final scoring, but nevertheless, this puts them right up there, I think.
Yeah, I think top 3. As Écurie X makes their way out of the queue and towards the start line. Jonas, do you think the car will attack the track with as much gusto as it did during the driverless skid pad?
I would say I hope so, but I have my doubts. Also in the acceleration, what we saw from them earlier today, that looked a bit more measured, let's put it that way.
The driverless acceleration?
No, I think that was the manual acceleration.
Indeed.
Nevertheless, I think the car will do well, but I think we'll see slightly less aggressive maneuvers than what we saw at the skid pad.
Well, a man can hope. Final checks being done. And of course, they won't be allowed to go until Napoli clears the track, and they're still well inside it. Orange lights are on. Napoli's team has left the track, and the go signal is given.
Ooh, that was very close, just before the first corner. The car hit straight left.
Straight left. You could hear it kiss the tires. Hopefully there's no damage to the vehicle. It seemed to have stopped just in time.
Very good reflexes from the ASR, the guy with the remote control.
Can you see any damage from here, Jonas?
The car is definitely within the tire barrier, but I don't think there is any damage to the front wing or the nose. Should be all fine. I'll buff right out.
The car is not being pulled out just yet. The extent of any potential damage is being assessed. We see the driver is getting in, so the car must be safe to retrieve. And we see the Aachen car rolling back. I feel like there is a tiny hole in the front of the nose cone.
Yeah, there is a bit of a dent, a bit of a fold. Yeah, no, there are a few crinkles all around the nose cone. The impact attenuator underneath should still be fine. That's the actual crumple zone. The front wing is a lot further back than the tip of the nose, so I think that's just minor cosmetic damage.
Who do we have in the queue for the first run there, Jonas?
First run is a good question. I can't make that out. If I had to guess, I would say it is Budapest, but it might not be.
Is there a big mustache behind the wheel?
Even that I cannot tell. Though I think the one guy in a driver's suit I see does tell me that this is Budapest, and in the second run queue I see Deggendorf.
Yes. And we can see now Deggendorf making their way over to the starting line. It seems that Budapest is still doing some final checks in the first run queue. So we'll be seeing the second attempt from Deggendorf first. Remind me, Jonas, how did Deggendorf do on their first attempt? Yes, yeah, I found the timing. It is 40.55 for Fast Forest. And indeed pretty quick. That was the second fastest time that we've seen today. Let's see if they can improve on it.
Let's ready.
Deggendorf taking a minute to get ready.
Doesn't look like the car is charged yet.
No, and I saw the official looking at his stopwatch.
We are entering the last hour of this event. Looks like Deggendorf is motioning for their push bar. They will leave the starting line again, save their second run. Budapest instead coming forward.
What other cars would you be expecting to see participate in the Driverless Autocross, Jonas?
Driverless Autocross, off the top of my head. I would be hoping for maybe Trondheim to show up. We haven't seen the second combustion driverless. That could still be a possibility.
Ah, yes, the Valéncia car.
Yes. But again, this is part of the extended driverless cup, basically. So any team that is participating here is partaking in a wider range of disciplines than just the driverless parts of the combustion or electric cup. So I do understand, even though that teams have driverless capabilities on the car, that they do not want to partake in the extended gambit that the Driverless Cup puts them through. Makes it all the more impressive that the teams that do show up here have had a pretty good showing so far.
And I think, just as you said, Jonas, that we might still be waiting for the other combustion driverless car. Is that them I see in the queue?
That could be. It's hard to make out. Deggendorf is pushing back in. Maybe they are ready as well.
It is indeed Valéncia in their first run queue. I feel like based on historic performances, historic participation, either AMZ or Augsburg would have wanted to participate in the full driverless event. So maybe we'll see them still. In the meanwhile, Budapest car ready to go, about to be given the go signal. The signal has been given. 30 seconds have begun. And there it goes. Gentle start. Navigating very carefully through the track. But successfully so thus far. Staying well within the lines. Not coming close to any cones that I could see.
Let's check if they will clip that one cone in the tight turn coming up now.
Well, I see they clipped one or two yellow ones before then. Slowing down also in the final corner, and yes, touching that blue cone too.
And actually dragging it under the front wing now.
Yeah, that cone is really a team favorite. And the back half of the track looking much cleaner. fine through the last couple of corners. Oh, and that would be an off-track. Unfortunate ending. In the final corner, the car chooses to go left instead of right, but got very close to the finish and getting a well-deserved round of applause from the grandstands.
Yeah, the last 30 meters were not to be had. They have another run though, and we have plenty of time, judging by the length of the queue, for them to have another go.
Well, you say that. I feel like it would have to be a relatively quick turnaround. There are 3 cars in the queue right now, and I see one more approaching to get back into the queue. That is the 124 from Tallinn. So the intensity, the density is picking up. Deggendorf now back for their second attempt. I'm figuring they fixed whatever issue they had when they attempted their second run the last time around. Officials doing some final inspections. Orange lights not coming on yet. There they are. Go signal given. Let's see if they can improve on their first run.
Flashing orange, a good sign as we're setting off.
Looked more aggressive off the start line.
2 cones collected in the first turn on the inside, one being dragged underneath the car. Seems like the team is fine. One more blue on the left. Another. No, I think that's just the cone popping from under the car.
That's the yellow one escaping.
Tight corner, clipping a few more, and that cone on the outside is again. Couple more.
But still driving along the track.
Not a clean run, but getting one on the board is the most important thing right now.
Good sharp right-hander across the line.
Car slowing down.
Stopping well.
Solid
there is
blue.
the blue.
Excellent news. Well done, Deggendorf. Time on the board.
The Deggendorf team member nearly being caught on the camera of shame there. Almost triggering the timing equipment with their legs. I have to say, it has been a much more calm event for the timekeeping guys this time around. at the previous two. At both of them, there was at least one team that completely took out all of the timing equipment. Team Delft at the skid pad and Budapest at the acceleration.
Yeah,
So
we've had some breakages so far.
Hey, and there they are, the team that we thought would be participating, and indeed they are. Car number 33 from Zurich.
Indeed, they've also had a bit of a reputation of killing timekeeping equipment in years past. Let's hope that this doesn't turn into a hat trick, 3 for 3 driverless events, breaking timing stuff.
Final checks being performed. I can hear the sounds of the pneumatic system engaging. Tractive system is on. Orange lights are on. Ready to go. Start signal is given.
Ambitious looking start. Getting very close to the inside cones, but not clipping them.
A little bit jerky with both the throttle input and the steering input. Ooh, and unfortunately going off track there, not quite managing the left-hander. Well, glancing over at the queue, it has really filled out. I see, what, 6, 7 cars there? Maybe even 8? Well, not 8, but at least 6. First among them, Valéncia, making their way over to the starting line.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a peek at which other cars we might be seeing here momentarily. I think I see a very distinctive looking nose from Ulm in the first run queue. Don't think there's anyone behind them, but in the second run queue there is Tallinn up front. I think Milano is coming back, and right at the rear Hamburg as well.
Yes, and you'd assume AMZ will return for their second attempt quite soon as well.
You would hope so. We have 45 minutes left for the driverless autocross here. Sounds about doable. 6 cars in 45 minutes. You never know though what the driverless cars manage to whip up here for surprises.
Valéncia have started their engine and the orange lights are on. The officials seem satisfied. The team members as well. Ready to race. Go signal has been given. Flashing orange lights.
Sounds like it almost stalled right across the start line. Nevertheless, we set off. A little bit wobbly towards the first turn.
Yes, approaching the track boundaries very, very closely, but staying within them so far.
I saw one clipped cone in the first corner. Taking it slow and steady. Like we mentioned, at this point, getting a time on the board is guaranteed to net you quite a decent amount of points. So this approach is definitely understandable.
It's going all right through the slalom. Let's see if the Valéncia car will also decide to touch that very attractive blue cone, as it seems. I see they clipped a yellow one just before and another. And that blue cone gets touched once again. But the car is still going, still staying well on track. And that looked like an off track to me, but maybe not.
Taking it a little bit wide, but coming back on track. No muss, no fuss. Last couple of turns coming up.
Second to last turn done well, and the final turn. The car corrected itself, but do the blue flashing lights indicate that the ASR pressed the abort button?
Not necessarily. I think the car itself can also decide to abort. I'm not sure.
So, well, a little wobbly, but a promising first attempt, I would say.
Promising first attempt. I think they can definitely at least attempt to improve and come back for the second run. I'm giving no guarantees that they will make it in time, given the length of the queue so far, but who knows, some people might also be dropping out along the way.
Yes, we see Ulm making their way out of the first run queue and towards the starting line. I heard, Jonas, at the acceleration event, you spoke with one of the Ulm team members and they explained why the front nose, the front cone, the nose cone at the front of the vehicle is shaped the way it is. What answer did they give you?
Yeah, it was the ultimate answer to excuse pretty much any ridiculous design. Well, the aero guys said it was faster this way. I'm going with it definitely looks distinctive. Well, usually my logic goes, if it looks fast, then it is fast. This looks distinctive.
It reminds me of the step noses that we saw in Formula One about a decade ago.
Yeah, I was getting similar thoughts. Also, yeah.
Because you have the low nose cone for the new impact attenuator rules. And I see the second bump closer to the cockpit is for the suspension setup. But the step in between, that is an interesting decision to make it such a steep gradient change as opposed to a more smooth line.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, that's necessary for the clearance of the pedals within the car, but definitely an interesting packaging concept.
And fairly unique, I would say. Definitely one of a kind at the competition this year. I'm not sure if we've had similar designs to this in the past, but it's the first time I'm seeing something like this.
Yeah, I think this is part and parcel of the impact attenuator rule change that we've had for this year. They have to be mounted quite a bit lower than some teams have previously mounted them. I was expecting a little bit more of a design impact of this. Some teams have significantly lowered their noses, but yeah, other teams have found different ways around this one. Other cars look pretty much exactly the same as they have always been, so the impact is a lot less than what I was thinking about.
Some final checks being performed, but I'm seeing a little bit of a quizzical, perhaps disappointed look on the face of the ASR. Hopefully they can resolve the issue if there is one. The officials looking at the stopwatch very carefully, considering how many cars there are still in the queue that need to run. Yes, and Ulm unfortunately did not make it within their 2-minute window and have been asked to return to the preparation and queue area. Yes, and as Ulm is being carried, pushed, pulled, dragged away, Tallinn is in the background approaching for their second attempt. Tallinn unfortunately had a DNF on their first run. So here's hoping they will complete one successful lap this time around. Orange lights are on. Go ahead is given. The car is about to begin. Very twitchy and unfortunately immediately going off the track right after crossing the start line. That is unfortunately a DNF on both attempts for Tallinn.
Yeah, you can't say they didn't try, but I think both runs were struggling still on the start straight here.
Well, the first run, if I remember correctly, they very nearly completed. They only went off at the last corner. Or was that another team?
I think that was Budapest.
Ah, yes, you're right. And now we see Politecnico di Milano approaching for their second run. And once again, quite a bit of a queue forming up. I see in the first run queue, I think that might be Augsburg. Jonas, could you confirm or deny?
Looks like Augsburg, that dark red
is
pretty distinctive.
Hamburg lining up for their second run. Behind them,
behind that Ulm, behind that Dresden, behind that Budapest, behind that Milano.
Lisboa.
Sorry, Milano is right here. Interestingly enough, similar to Formula One pit stops, one of the Milano team members is actually holding a leaf blower to try and keep the LiDAR mounted inside of the nose cone as cool as possible. It is scorching hot here today in Hockenheim. We've been sweating all day in the sun. Not a single cloud in the sky to provide any sort of shade. So it's understandable that some components on these cars are struggling in the heat, just as we are.
While Milano is setting up, you can see the DHBW Stuttgart car pulling some rather quick laps and corners on the test track. And doing a couple of power slides, probably checking their traction control systems. Orange lights are on the Milan car. Go signal is given. Accelerating all the way through the first straights, accelerating all the way through the long right-hander as well.
I would claim that this is faster than the first run of the day that
Definitely
we saw.
seems that way. Will they still touch that blue cone?
Struggling a bit less in that corner though, overall not slowing down nearly as much.
Yeah.
And that one cone on the outside is still standing, that's good news.
Unfortunately, they clipped some other ones on the inside, but those seem to be the only ones. Hitting one more.
Very flamboyant stop though. 30.63, solid blue light. Congratulations, Milano.
Fantastic job, Milano. I think that was 3 cones, maybe 4 in total, but even with that adjustment, I think that would still be the fastest time of the day.
Quite probably. Unofficially, of course. I also don't remember anymore how many cones they hit on their first attempt.
At least one.
At least one, yeah.
And now we see Augsburg making their way over to the start line. Just over half an hour to go, which means there is just under a minute left for the historic acceleration. So for all the people who will be wrapping up at historic acceleration right now, please come join us at the Driverless Autocross. The final half hour, quite a lot of teams coming in still. More teams joining the queue, so still quite a few rides, quite a lot of excitement up ahead. And hopefully we'll be able to fit all of them into the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Formula Student event if there weren't massive queues towards the end of the allotted time. I think an interesting car has just pushed into the first run queue though. Barcelona is joining us, as Augsburg is already retreating again.
Yes, I saw the driver put a very disappointed hand on his face. So apparently it was something...
maybe something trivial went wrong there.
Hopefully. Hopefully something that's easy to fix, and we'll still be able to see them run today. And Milan also taking a little bit of time to be removed from the track. And Hamburg getting to go on their second attempt before Barcelona does their first. Probably Barcelona I can still see doing some final checks before being allowed onto the track. I see Karlsruhe returning for a second attempt as well. And Dresden, like you said, Jonas. Behind them, Budapest. Behind them, Lisboa. Behind them, Valéncia.
And then you confused Karlsruhe with Ulm because Ulm is first in the second run queue.
I did do that. I see Karlsruhe is still in the preparation / checking area. Milan is now slowly leaving the track. Hamburg, meanwhile, preparing. Driver now getting out of the car. Leaving part of the seatbelt on the outside of the cockpit. I see they've spotted it, putting it back in. I think, who was it yesterday that we saw driving with the seatbelt outside? Was it Dresden?
I think I also saw Napoli or somebody to that description doing it as well. It doesn't seem to affect the cars really all that much.
Ooh, and I believe I see another car behind Barcelona joining the first run queue.
That looks like Chalmers to me.
It does indeed. Orange lights on the Hamburg car. Go signal is given.
Collecting the first 3 cones on the straight here, but coming back on track.
Collecting a couple more on the right-hand side as well. You can see there's one trapped under the right side wing of the car. 2 trapped.
1 on the right, 1 on the left. Car slows way down.
But now speeds up through the slalom.
Weaving very wide as it does so.
It seems to be slowing down on the straights and speeding up through the corners.
Yeah, somebody put a minus sign wrong somewhere. Collects that cone, but with the wrong side of the car. There.
Returning onto the track, did not seem to go off track fully.
No.
And unfortunately going off track in the last corners.
That's her done. Very good attempt from Hamburg though. Entertaining to see. A lot of cones collected. This might take the officials a little bit of time to set back up again.
What other car was it that corrected itself at the last second in that sector? Was it Valéncia?
That goes past my memory at the moment. Next up, we have Barcelona. I don't think we've seen them on the driverless skid pad yesterday. I don't know if they were at the driverless acceleration this morning.
Well, in any case, first time for the 2 of us seeing them do driverless.
For sure.
Hamburg team member returning the cones that were trapped under the car. I count 3 even, not 2. I think most of the cones have been set up in their proper boxes again.
And I think in the queue, a similar situation as we saw towards the end of the driverless acceleration is brewing. We have a bunch of cars that are still wanting to go for the second run. Chalmers at the moment is the only one that is still queuing for a first run.
Yes, and I see 7 cars lining up for a second attempt.
Yeah, that
includes... Oh, and I see E26 crawling around the back there. Green Team Stuttgart. Have we seen them yet?
Definitely not. They were sort of on our maybe list for the Driverless Cup. Looks like they're joining.
Yes, lining up behind Chalmers in the first run queue. And 27 minutes to go. 23 minutes to go. What do you think, Jonas? How many cars will have enough time to go for their attempts? Certainly the first attempt cars.
For sure, those 2 should be getting in. I think I would be very surprised if we see anything past that, given the previous pace.
Tractor system is engaged on the Barcelona car and discharged again and being asked to depart the starting line.
That's bad news for Barcelona. Probably some of the teams towards the front of the second run queue are rejoicing at the sound of this.
But Barcelona would now get to rejoin, if they were to rejoin, at the back of the first run queue, correct?
That's a good question. There's only one way to find out.
In the meanwhile, Chalmers going from the first run queue towards the starting line. They had a very dramatic last-second driverless skid pad on Thursday, setting the second fastest time with their one and only attempt on the day, having just made it past the driverless scrutineering.
And doing it as the last run of the day.
Indeed, doing it as the last run of the day, less than a minute on the clock. So let's see what they have in store for us on the autocross. Chalmers lining up on the starting line. Driver getting out of the car. Final preparations being made. I can hear the pneumatic system being engaged. Seem to be struggling a little bit with getting it into the ready to drive mode. Doing a couple of resets. Hopefully they can figure it out.
Official patiently but diligently looking at the stopwatch. There is a time limit for getting set up, and the time is over. So with all the motion and commotion here, cars not being able to engage properly, Ulm is being given the go-ahead for their second run. And indeed, right at the front of the first run queue, we see green team.
And hopefully Chalmers will be able to figure out their issue and still put in a autocross attempt. Because based on their skip pad performance, the car definitely has a lot of potential. Ulm now coming back to the start line.
So Ulm coming from the second attempt queue for their first proper run here. Flashing orange means that the car might set off at any moment.
The 30 seconds that the team has between being given the start signal and actually beginning their attempt are running down. Let's hope the car starts in the next few seconds.
Yeah. Time is up. Unfortunately, that means no running for Ulm today. Dresden now being waved to the starting line. We have 16 minutes left in the event overall. Of course, the long distance between the first positions of the queues and this starting line is not helping.
Hesden now coming back to the starting line. For what I believe would be their first attempt.
Yeah, we have seen them here before, though if I recall correctly, they were unable to set off in the end.
And I'm looking over at the queue. It appears that Green Team have decided to retract from the first run queue and are now going back into the checking area. or in fact leaving the driverless autocross area entirely. So it seems that we will not be seeing Green Team running the driverless autocross, unfortunately. But we do have Dresden lined up on the starting line. Tractive system is engaged. I see the ASR give a bit of a head shake.
Yeah, this is time for Dresden. Unfortunately, they did not get a run in today. Push bar being called for. We have 13 minutes left in the event. Just as with the previous events we've had, the gong will sound to signal the end of the session. Any car that hasn't been given the green flag, or in the driverless case, the officials go ahead, will not be allowed to move, even if they are just getting ready or getting into position. Next up here, we have Budapest and a bunch of cars still trying to requeue just in case something happens. At the first position, I see Lisboa, behind them what I believe to not be anything, because I do not know. Behind them, car number 120, that's Karlsruhe. Munich TU Fast queuing up behind them. And then it's Augsburg, Barcelona, and more.
It is Valéncia right behind Lisboa. Final checks being performed. On their first attempt, they got very, very close to the finishing line. I just saw some blue flashing lights. Jonas, does that mean anything?
Right on startup, that's not a great sign, but not terrible yet. They still have time to reset. Of course, in their first run, they were tantalizingly close to the finish line, but in the last turn, the Budapest car was unable to complete the run.
It seems they will not be able to complete their second run, I would say just yet, but unfortunately I don't think at all, as there's only 10 minutes to go. And as you said, quite a few cars still hoping to get their second run in.
Driverless driver being reinstalled. And the car dragged back to the queuing area. Next up, we will see Lisboa give it another shot. Interestingly, while we were so very excited for Green Team to be joining the queuing area, I think they have retreated again, judging by the fact that the first run queue is now completely empty.
No, indeed. I mentioned it a few minutes back that Green Team have left the dynamic area for autocross entirely. So I don't think we'll be seeing them make an attempt. And again, hearing some fantastic team spirit from Lisbon team members in the grandstands. Final checks being done. Orange lights are on.
I think I finally figured out what you thought was interesting about this car. The main hoop is tilted back. One of the few cars that I've seen that on. Usually they are very much vertical.
Oh, it wasn't a riddle when I was asking you, Jonas. I was genuinely curious if you saw anything interesting in the car.
Well, now I have finally spotted something.
Very aggressive over the line, clipping quite a few blue cones on the start.
I think the car is determined to clip every blue cone.
But staying on the track. Very nicely through the slalom bit. Clipping some more cones on the far side. Hitting everyone's favorite blue cone in the far corner, but continuing nicely.
More blue cones leaving their box along the way, but...
Oh, no. So close to the finish line. Yeah, only a couple blue cones collected. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 under the car, and many more strewn across the track. Officials now properly scurrying across the track to set up the cones properly again. But of course remembering not to run too much across the dynamic area, as that is not allowed. But I'm sure the teams won't mind, as they're trying to give them as much time as possible to complete their runs. Valéncia now lined up. Driver out of the vehicle.
6 minutes left for the running here in the Driverless Autocross.
So if things continue at the same pace we've had with the previous teams, we will probably get to see Karlsruhe. We might get to see Too Fast behind them, but I think that would be about as far as we'd be able to get. The engine has been started, the orange lights are on.
All the marshals are getting back to their posts. We are ready for Valéncia.
Waiting for one marshal on the side there to leave the track. They are now off. Go signal is given. And the car begins their second attempt.
Again, almost choking down the engine on the start line. We saw this from them already. One cone in the first corner. Again, a very cautious approach. We've talked about this at length, getting a time on the board due to the way that the driverless events tend to be scored is extremely important. The time itself, less so. This feels a bit slower than their first run.
But also more accurate. I feel like they clipped more cones on their first attempt by this
way more cones. There's only one more that I can spot so far. Of course, everybody's favorite, that one cone in the tight corner right in front of the grandstands.
Of course, gets clipped. But still progressing slowly but surely. This is the part where the car struggled last time, but made it back on. but it's not managed to make it back onto the track this time around, unfortunately, and that is a DNF.
That's really unfortunate to see.
And we see Karlsruhe immediately rushing to the start line.
Tantalizingly close. Only 2 cones that have to be reset. And Valéncia can retrieve back behind the safety line quite quickly, I think, as well.
Hopefully they retrieve pretty quickly so as not to impede Karlsruhe, although they of course have to be ready to go as well.
I think there is plenty of time left, 3 minutes. Should be possible for at least Karlsruhe to get another run in.
Still some cones being dug out from the underside of the Valéncia car. I think that is all of them, and they're now being pushed off track. And meanwhile, the Karlsruhe car is ready to go. Orange lights are on. Marshall's getting off the track. Valéncia car also safely off the track. And I believe the go signal has been given.
Very close. That was definitely a crash into the tire barrier. That's harder than the hits that the Aachen car had experienced in pretty much exactly the same spot.
Much harder than Aachen.
I think I heard a carbon crunch. I think one shot might have to be poured out for the front wing this time around.
And I see the too fast car ambitiously making their way over to the start line.
I see the nose of the car buried deep in the tire wall, up to the front wheels even. I think some of the carbon fiber people are going to have to stay up late tonight. Unfortunately for Karlsruhe, Munich might be smiling slightly. They made it all the way to the starting line at least. It is now a bit of a question mark whether they will be allowed to ready themselves in time.
Because that is interesting. What is the equivalent of a green flag in driverless in the sense of how it relates to the last run being allowed? Is it the go signal being given?
It's definitely the go signal from the officials here to the ASR, who is allowed to push the all-important button on the remote control, but unfortunately the gong means that Munich will not be able to drive anymore. The session has timed out. This is heartbreak here in the last couple of minutes.
Indeed.
Both due to the damage to the kit car and to Munich being so tantalizingly close to getting a run in.
And Green Team in the meanwhile had made their way back to the first run queue, but unfortunately will no longer get to attempt it.
So close, so close. Well,
maybe we can commentate for a little bit longer just to see what the extent of the damages on the kit car once it gets retrieved. In the meanwhile, Jonas, what other dynamic events can the good people viewing us both here and at home expect?
Well, the historic acceleration, I believe, has come to an end already. So I think this was the last dynamic event for the day. I think the test track is still open for a little bit longer over on the far side of this infield here. That means only tomorrow will you get to see more on-track action here. We have the driverless track drive starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow. That will be in the exact same spot as we're standing in now, with a very similar track layout as well. The autocross of the combustion and electric, so the manual versions starts at 12:15. No, sorry, that's the track walk. The autocross of the historic cars starts at 1:45, and the manual autocross of the current cars starts at 2 o'clock.
Yes, and on Sunday, the endurance event for the manually driven cars will be taking place from 8:30 until 5 o'clock. And we're just waiting here to see what the extent of the impact effect was on the Karlsruhe car. All the cars in the queue begin making their way back to the pits.
I'm trying to give a quick rundown of the times that we saw here at the event today. Milano is holding the purple time for today of 30.63, though they were definitely at least a couple of cones in that run. Napoli set a good time, 46.98. Saw a fast run from Deggendorf at 39.4. Lisboa had a good run, 45.54. And I think those were all the valid runs that we saw today. Quite a few cars rolling up to the starting line not being able to start. But even more heartbreaking were the cars that had to abort the runs, especially Budapest. My heart goes out to them, the last corner, and also right here in front of the finishing line.
It's an even more heartbreaking, of course, for Aachen and for Karlsruhe.
Yeah, they were also very close to finishing.
See quite a large collection of officials around the Karlsruhe car now, probably deciding on the best way to retrieve it.
Yeah, what might be the case is that the car is lodged so deep in the barriers that parts of the suspension are no longer functioning properly. We might have to get a dolly out to remove the car, but I also can't see closely enough of what is happening. Taking a bit of a closer peek, the tire wall is moved a good half meter from where it was originally sitting. I see a completely demolished front wing. The left side end plate is completely in pieces. There's carbon and foam bits floating everywhere. Trying to get a better angle at the front left wheel. What I can see from the suspension looks good, but also looking at the nose cone, that is definitely crunched in. Doesn't look like the impact attenuator took any brunt of the force. It all went into the front wing, its mountings, and the structure of it. It's a damn shame too. It's a very intricate front wing design. A lot of fancy metal parts connecting the individual elements together. Don't see much damage on the right-hand side though. Having been a carbon guy in my days, my heart goes out to the laminators that are either putting in overtime now, or maybe the team might opt to do the continued running without a front wing. I think this will be a good little while before the car is being removed here. Lots of discussions from some scrutineers, some officials, some team members going on. So I think we can end off the commentary section here. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to us for so long. We've had quite a few breaks in the program here today with no cars appearing. Nevertheless, we had great atmosphere. Especially from our Mediterranean grandstand. Thank you. We will see you hopefully tomorrow in the dynamic events again in the same place. not at the same time.
No, at 8 a.m.
Bright and early, be there or be square. Good night, everybody.
Jump, or is it recording?
Sorry?
Is it recording?
Yes. It's no problem.
Sięgniecie w turlał.
Właśnie nie widziałem samego zdarzenia, ale
Nie w turlał jednak. Drugą się maliny.
ja jestem tak ślepy, jak
Patrz na Milan. 9 sekund, nie? 9 sekund. Prosto i tak. Ale jak trochę się śpieszysz do pracy, ale jednak tak, jeszcze nie chcesz się stresować, nie te kosy jechali, nie? Aha, aha. Ten nas jest. Jakby nie był, to bym powiedział, że chuj, szykuje mnie tutaj. Ale że w sensie, że sam, tak? Że... Ja sobie tak to wyobrażam. Tak, o przetrwanie, to nie była walka z czasem, tylko o przetrwanie. Jakby w ogóle, jakby wiesz, Sunday Drive, nie? Pewnie, kurwa, no. Tak prosto wygląda. Tak, takiego na idealny